guidance show. So we see 3 hands here. These are the starting occupations piles for all players. We see an educator in Bigfoot's pack as the first pick. So the green boxes signify what's being drafted from. So Turambar opened with a veggie lover and a storehouse keeper. Dave opened up a zoo director and now has a journeyman. Zoo director journeyman is the start of a small house combo. If I had to make a dark horse pick for Dave instead of something more reliable like gluten baker or food connoisseur, I would go with that. He might, because Bigfoot doesn't need that scholar. Bigfoot is 2 seats away, though. Turambar now having the scholar to choose from. Bigfoot's picked a casino manager after the educator and has passed that pack on to Turambar, so Bigfoot's draft window is a little delayed. Turambar takes the scholar. Alright, so now if we look at CS, who we haven't talked about yet, CS opened up a fence overseer and follows it up with late bloomer. So CS is also perhaps going farming first here. The rest of these Ox are not amazing. Is that? No, it's not what I thought it was. Fence helper doesn't really help CS enough, and he picks a tapestry weaver, it looks like, from that pack. Well, we do have a spring worker and a baker, 2 cards that enable relatively early baking. So if I was in Bigfoot's position, I would probably draft baker here. Corn profiteer, also a way to turn grain into food. So Bigfoot could hope for some early grain mechanism. I don't think Entrepreneur is that bad. Inventory Manager and Aramite are from CS's first pack that Dave is now choosing between, and he opts for Aramite. CS getting an Inventory Manager 5th here is not really what I would expect from that pack. I would not have passed Inventory all the way down to 5th, and CS does grab it here. For those of you who don't know these cards, I guess I should have said even earlier than this, then you should be able to click on the pictures of the cards and be able to zoom in on them. Yeah. For now, the 2 strongest cards in this draft are Bigfoot's Educator and Dave's Zoo Director. So Educator is a very, very strong card in the right hands. Educator's potential is to zoom out all occupations by the end of stage 1 or 2. And ordinarily, if you draft a lot of early occupations, you'll be in trouble because you're not building a room fast enough and growing. You're too busy spending food and playing your occupations. But with Educator, if you can find a great food support, Educator is destructively strong. Right, and I think this has some ripple effects throughout the draft. I think that Journeyman is very suspicious. Lawton, thanks so much. Oh, that's a gift sub from Marushka. Thank you so much, Marushka, for the gift sub, and congrats, Lawton, on receiving it. We do see Dave with a clay starter bricklayer, as Sue's pointing out in chat here. That is definitely a fun idea, but it's a little costly on food. Dave also has an Aramite, which is an early occupation. One thing we don't know in Play Agricola drafts is the starting player. We know the seeding order. The seeding order is not going to change here, but starting player on Play Agricola is randomly assigned after the draft. So we only know relative to each other where everyone's sitting. Everyone should be drafting not too hopeful that they'll be sure to get an occupation. The chances are good that anyone will generically be able to play an occupation in round 1, but it's not guaranteed. Round 1 occupations, sorry, that we would expect to see in this game are Educator, Food Connoisseur, Eremite, and Storehouse Keeper. Those are the ones I would expect to see played in round 1 if each player has the chance. Usually no. Uh, exactly, because both of them want you to turn vegetables into food, and it's hard to get that many vegetables. Alright, so CS has made his way to the minor improvements picks. One thing that we didn't notice while playtesting and is now obvious is that the draft packs we have are of 9. So we are not able to see the last couple minors in these packs here. So that's maybe something for us to think about next time, or maybe something we can just not care about. CS's opening minor pack features some pretty strong stuff. There's a swing plow in the 4th position there. There's a cooking corner and Dolly's mother in the 1st and 2nd positions there. It's a swing plow in 4th. Oh, an iron plow in 6th. Yep. So we are seeing some plow support. Yeah, Bigfoot's had not the best luck in finding food to help his educator. He picked a glutton 3rd, and I would consider that more of a D draft to make sure no one else tries to go big food later in the draft, because Bigfoot wants to be the one getting a bunch of food. Whoa, okay, so we weren't able to see the quarry. That quarry in the miners pack. And apologies, it is apparently steel plow. I need to restudy my WM plows because I'm not supposed to mess that up. Regardless, a quarry can be very game warping if played early. I'm not sure how many occupations CS can fire out fast, but quarry is not a card to be messed with. Turumbar has a couple fun things here. He has a resource gatherer to back up his scholar if he wants to go for a Stonehouse game. He has a farmer with fence helper, so he should be able to fence and receive an animal whenever he wants. That's not the strongest thing, but it is something. Turumbar's minor pack has some interesting stuff. He picks a diamond mine, which we didn't see, so hidden at the back of these miners piles is a lot of good stone, apparently. Yeah, Veggie Lover, Storehouse Keeper, and Machete definitely fits, though I don't think Diamond Mine is ever a bad pick. We see Driftwood featured in the 2nd position of Dafe's pack, so another extremely strong minor improvement there, a point and 3 wood for free. Absinthe and Clogs also in that pack. Clogs should be pretty popular this game, with Dave wanting to Journeyman for a Zoo Director and Turumbar with a Scholar. Yeah, it looks like we were able to see a Tuileries Garden in CS's opening pack. Tepembo, thanks for pointing that out. Quarry followed by Tuileries would be a fun way to use 3 extra stone from Quarry, and you're going to have 4 occupations anyway. Right. All right, so Bigfoot has opened up his miner's pack. He is hoping for large sums of food. He has a forest pasture in that pack, and he did pick a very speculative ham glazer 5th. So if he can find a way to get a couple of hogs early in his game, I don't know if there's a minor improvement for it, but a forest pasture with a ham glazer and a baker could be a very strange way to run an educator. That's astounding. Yeah, CS immediately snaps that driftwood. Yeah, and he goes with a corn sheaf. I suppose that's for his Eremite. Because Eremite doesn't want any minor improvements in front of you. So something like a corn sheaf, which is reasonably good, not amazing, but reasonably good, and a passing miner is a good way to take start player early in a game without any eremite penalty. Right. CS grabs up a bookmark. That'll be helpful to his quest to play 4 occupations earlier than normal. Yeah. And I think he's benefiting from Dave having a very tunnel vision plan, honestly. Uh, I'm not a fan of drafting with tunnel vision, as viewers of my stream probably know. So I would not be drafting in Dave's style. That's not to say that Dave's doing bad things, because, you know, who am I to argue with someone who has beaten me in competitions over and over again? Like, seriously, I can't say anything about it. So I think if I'm playing CS's hand, I'm rolling with Inventory Manager, Brushwood Collector, Fence Overseer for sure, because Brushwood Collector, Fence Overseer I think has a good like synergy in terms of your early actions. Of course, if you try to build a room early, that takes a lot of your early actions, but Brushwood Collector says you don't need a read action, and Fence Overseer says while you're already only planning to take wood for your rooms, you can just take 2 more wood and have a fenced stable. So I think that Brushwood Collector, Fence Overseer has some good synergy. Inventory Manager, get some resources when you play your improvements, and then, you know, I wouldn't be the most surprised to see Old Miser be played by CS here. Old Miser, not a card that sees much action, but if you want to play a lot of early occupations, that saves you on food at the very beginning, all the way through the game, and is an occupation. And as Sid is pointing out in chat, sealing matters for Old Miser, because you are going to lose 4 or 5 points by the end of the game, thanks to its effect. But yeah, a quarry means you can do some absolutely crazy stuff in terms of improvements, so that should be interesting to see. Catching up on the other drafts here, Bigfoot has the Forest Pasture and the Steel Plow. We don't see any boar support in the miners, so unfortunately for Bigfoot, I don't think this is going his way in the draft. No, and I guess we haven't talked about this specifically, but Casino Manager wants you to spend all of your pieces by the end of the game. Fence Overseer is a fantastic first pick for CS, seeing a Casino Manager in that pack. Turambar has a Pelts and a Swing Plow on top of his Diamond Mine. Very solid. I think there's a problem here, though, Derek, because these 3 miners, while all being incredibly powerful, they have the same prereq. You need to play 3 Ox. And apart from Storehouse Keeper, I don't necessarily like any of the early Ox from Turambar. There could be something like play the Fence Helper and Farmer very early. You could play Scholar and Resource Gatherer very early, or somewhat early, and then play those miners. I guess that could work, but it doesn't feel super aligned. Right. Bigfoot found a Working Gloves. I didn't notice this, but Working Gloves is a fantastic miner for Bigfoot to find here. Working Gloves, if y'all want to click on that if you're unfamiliar, lets you spend a building resource for 2 food that would normally be spent on occupation costs. So Bigfoot, oh, I really like this for Bigfoot now. I think Bigfoot has a game just from that minor improvement, which is usually just average, but with a hand that supports like automatic playing, like a 2 clay grab is now really amazing early. So Bigfoot all of a sudden, in my estimation, is back in this game. If this is his 4th pick, I think this might be his 4th pick he's drafting from. He finds a Menagerie, along with the pack that had like Machete and Lamp Oil. So there's some good cards remaining in that pack that Bigfoot only sees once. I don't think that's too surprising because that pack was also quite strong, right? That had the two amazing plows in it and the quarry, so yeah. Let's see, what was the last pick from that pack? Wow, Dave. Oh, Dave picked the cooking corner, which he can swap out for a cooking hearth, and that's good for Eremite because Eremite's happy to have major improvements, and then late in the game, Dave can swap out a 1-point major for a 3-point minor when Eremite is already off. Right. He third. Like, oh my god. Like, what did. He picked a Heat Wave third. Heat Wave is a pretty trashy minor improvement, in my opinion. It doesn't do that much. And he does have a haystack. So this is. And a lamp oil now. So Dave, I think, is like full send onto early animals. He's gonna have the whole zoo. I can't wait. Uh, yeah. CS finds a wild green 6th and a woodsaw 7th. The woodsaw is actually very complementary to the late bloomer if he chooses to go that route. I don't actually think this is a good game for late bloomer, but that's only because we see the early Stonehouse picks from everyone else. Without that insight, I think late bloomer and woodsaw are totally defensible. The wild greens combos with Tuileries Garden nicely. It adds an extra food every time. If we look at Turambar's hand, he found a 4th really strong 3-oc prerequisite card in the Absinthe, and then gets a greenhouse 5th. Yeah. Alright, so I think we actually have caught up to the draft here. My goodness, it's a lot to keep track of, but I think we did it. Oh, that's crazy. Wait, and a strawberry patch in that pack? Whose pack was that? Oh, no, 5th? Yeah, 6th with it. So this was CS's ultra strong starting pack. Yeah, so that pack went Quarry, Steel Plow, Swing Plow, Cooking Corner, Tuileries Garden, and now Strawberry Patch and Village School could be 6th, 7th. Oh, so one prediction at a time. Once the first one is resolvable or canceled, the second one can be created. The first prediction, I think, is the classic gamble for those of you who like spending these channel credits on very inconsequential things. Oh no, sorry, this is... I thought this was going to be who will be first in the game. No, this is first in stone. So this prediction might be up for until round 8 or 9. The prediction's also closed, so we're probably out of predictions for a little bit. What was the... Oh, the prediction was, does Dave build a room? Oh. Well, mods, this is between y'all to figure out. And Turambar opens in start player, so we expect a storehouse keeper. Okay, he does have village school. Bigfoot elected to take strawberry patch. Also has Dolly's mother and a crop rotation field. That's like that pack. These miners have been so crazy. Right, and it's really great for Turambar to have first seat here. Storehouse keeper, a little suspect if you can't get it out round 1. So to be able to get it out round 1 is really cool. So Dave gets the Reedstone food after the occupation. CS probably launches into Inventory Manager here if I had to make a guess. But goes for 3 wood instead. So CS is not rushing the 4 occupations. I find this a little interesting. I suppose if he's angling for Brushwood Collector in first room, then it's better. And we see the Educator Working Gloves special here from Bigfoot. Working Gloves throws an extra food if you play it before an occupation. So this is one of the rare times where I think it's probably correct to do this. Um, and this is very nice for Turambar also, because Bigfoot's going to play Educator first move uh, next round. It gives Turambar an occupation now if he wants it, and it gives him Reedstone Food Grain at the start of next round. Uh, I mean, I might play Scholar here if I'm Turambar. You kind of have to take. Yeah, I don't agree with the 2 wood move. This now lets Dave go for Aramite here. And that's the absolute round 1 dream, because Reedstone Food and your Aramite from the second seat. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Sid thinking you would never play an Ock there. That's just a difference in play styles I'm going to claim. So CS takes Day Labor, Bigfoot takes 2 clay, and is going to launch into this Educator. I think this makes enough sense. There's the Educator. CS saying "oh" in chat. I think understanding the working gloves in full now. Dave probably taking 3 wood here. Could do something crazy like play Clay Starter. Could. Is there another Ock that Dave would like to play? Not really. If I'm in Dave's position, I usually take 3 wood in this position to see if I might go for a wooden room or to, you know, build fences early. But Dave says, I'll just play the Clay Starter. Yeah, and, you know, we might see a start player Heatwave next. We might have the treat of a round 2 Heatwave, everyone. I would not be surprised. Bigfoot launches into a food connoisseur here with a clay and a food to get some more excuses to bottom feed. CS takes another 3 wood, I think very clearly angling for a first room. And a stable, I don't see any reason that CS would want early animals here, with sheep not flipping in the first 2 rounds and no clear support for it. I'd probably take the 2 read as Bigfoot here. That's not true. I would take a bottom feeding action. I would day labor in Bigfoot's position because it comes with a read now on that food connoisseur. In a second, yeah, once Bigfoot finishes his turn, he'll be able to pile up those resources, but Bigfoot does take the 2 read. Yeah, Fast Like Tree, welcome to the stream. I'm Lumen. Commentating with me today is Blackjack Davey, also known as Derek. Derek runs this tournament. So Turenbarg taking another 2 wood action, a little underwhelming, and here we have it. It is the round 2 Heatwave. I love it. This is a final of a strong tournament, and I'm seeing stuff I've just literally never seen before in like 3 years of playing on this site, thousands of games, like maybe 5 years playing on this site. Yeah, that's fun and cool. Yeah, Rainier pointing out something that I have a bias in my playstyle. So all of you in chat can take note of that. It's probably a valid point, but it's so contrary to how I play the game. CS taking another day labor action. CS thinking that he wants all this food, and with a fence overseer and 4 occupations coming in soon, I think that has some merit. 4 clay on the table for Dave as start player, but he elects to take Reedstone food instead. That's reasonable enough. If he plays a bricklayer, he'll only need 3 clay, and there's 2 actions with at least 3 clay on the board. CS goes into an inventory manager before brushwood collector, perhaps not seeing a need to immediately play brushwood collector. Yeah, 3 wood and day labor twice. Bigfoot using educator, paying a clay, getting that casino manager down, getting 4 wood. I would expect Bigfoot to take the 4 clay here. Clay is generally the weakest resource in a 4-player Agricola game, so to spend the working gloves using clay seems best to me, but Bigfoot elects to fish with a reed instead. That's very reasonable if he thinks the 3 food spots are in danger. With the food connoisseur, the 2 early day labors, sheep is not extra late, there's an eremite on the table, the educator is sponsored by working gloves. I think this is relatively average in terms of food. I don't think this is especially starving. Absolutely. Absolutely can, Derek. So, Casino Manager says you should spend all of your pieces. Uh, wow. So, there was speculation in chat that the day laborers suggest that Old Miser is not the play for CS, but he runs with it anyway, which is... Yep. CS does his own meme where he declares all the bonus points. So, he's declaring 3 points for the Casino Manager, and he should use -5 on that Old Miser. He should use a different symbol for that. We were on a train of thought. Oh, Casino Manager was the train of thought. So with Casino Manager, you want to build all your fences, all your stables, have all your people. So that usually involves a humongous amount of wood. And CS has the workaround with Fence Overseer that should save, 12 or 13 wood for 4 food. I think Dave has a good chance because he's not spending any wood on rooms. The Eremite's going to throw him 3 woodish, 2 to 4 wood during this game, depending on how long he runs Eremite. Bigfoot does an interesting thing and spends 2 food on the Educator for Frame Builder of all cards. Marushka is trying to work out a bug with the extension here. I'm not exactly sure why Frame Builder is the play, but if I look at the other occupations, it shouldn't be the others, so I suppose it's Frame Builder by default. Turumbar starts with a village school and goes for another Reedstone food here. That makes a lot of sense. He can now build a room. Also, Bigfoot would spend 2 food instead of a wood or a reed to make sure he has room parts. CS grabbing another wood action. There were 2 4 wood actions this round, snapped up by Dave and CS. Those are pretty big in Casino Manager games, I would say. And the next 2 actions of this round are going to be room and 3 wood in some order. It's not surprising at all to see Bigfoot build the room, given that he kept that 5th wood. For sure. I'm surprised Turumbar didn't take 3 wood, though. 4 clay is definitely reasonable for a clay oven, though. So maybe that's just a different path to accomplishing the same overall things. Kimball in chat pointing out something I think I would agree with, that Bigfoot should just not play Ock here. We have the inner knowledge that many of these players want to play a lot of their Ocks, though. I'm not completely sure that's clear to Bigfoot. So it's possible that Bigfoot is going to take a pause soon, but not now, because of the uncertainty that Morox might not come in soon. We know that CS is angling hard for 4-Ox and that Dave has some fun stuff to do, but they don't. CS does get a brushwood collector out here. Dave has wood room parts, but that doesn't help him here. Bigfoot now declaring no occupation. He has the first room. He has a free action here that he doesn't really need to do much with. Maybe he gets going on these minor improvements, these strong minor improvements, and he does play a menagerie. Alright, so an important thing to do is know what flips in round 5. We have family growth. We have an early growth game with multiple players having some stone house plans. This could swing the game very nicely for CS here. The storyline, of course, if you didn't make it for the end of the pregame show, is that CS... and maybe we didn't fully cover it, is that CS was the regular season runaway winner in Season 1 of this tournament, but did not win the final. We had Rainier in the chat did win that final. So if CS gets a win in this final, that would be some storybook redemption, in my opinion. Yep. Turambar discards a card to save a read. Everyone in the game knows that that card is Lemon Trader, but technically nobody's supposed to act on that information. I think it's honor system. He wants to play his Bricklayer and build a room. I don't think he has any need to stay on 2 rooms necessarily. He could take 3 wood here, but I think I would probably play Bricklayer. He does, but as you say, that's not super urgent. Turambar's clay is most likely for an oven. I think Bigfoot probably builds a hearth pretty soon. So, right. It is an interesting spot for Dave. He goes for Reedstone Food. I guess that's good for collecting the resources to get to stone fast. You know, we could see a special here from Dave. We could have the straight Reno to stone here. I'm not sure that's likely, but it could still happen. Yeah, CS gets his Fence Overseer out, which is going to be really nice. Now we see the strength of these 2 day labor actions in stage 1. Because CS is only going to need 1 more food to feed if he grows. Or 2, I should say. But without those 2 day labor moves, he's back in a bind here. So spending a relatively useless stage 1 move, even in round 2 on day labor, seems to have been a very wise call. Yeah, absolutely. So Bigfoot has a forest pasture played here. Can't afford the steel plow. Can't play Dolly's mother. Doesn't want crop rotation field out yet. Turambar giving this spot, I think. 3 read is on the board. 3 read doesn't happen every day in round 5. It happens like every 4th day or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty safe. I mean, he can't play an Ock without any food, so. And then part of that decision could be if he's discarding a card or not, and he does elect to discard a card to save a stone. I like the discard. Having the only major... having the only played grain support so far besides the Food Connoisseur in the shape of the Storehouse Keeper means that Turambar is most likely to get that other oven also. So in that sense, I think saving a stone, getting closer to being ready for the stone oven with just one more reed stone food grain move, for example, I think is wise. I would expect it to be a late game thing. Turambar does really want the crops for veggie lovers' sake. He does have a greenhouse that I'm expecting to be his minor on family growth here, both because it's his only non-3 occupation minor available, but also because he wants that 2 vegetable payoff. Dafe electing to take clay. Was that a 1 clay move instead of playing 2 food bricklayer? That's something. Wow, so CS start players quarry after Dave declines to wood police and gets a 6 wood move. And will be able to, but he lets Dave build. It's a little interesting, but to take the wood away in a casino manager game can definitely have a lot of value. He might. Sid calling the wood saw, and that's definitely, upon reflection, the right call here. This is going to be a fun wood saw. Bigfoot grabs the hearth, which puts the sheep at risk. That's a great move from Bigfoot to set this up. Dave might actually take the sheep here over building a room, and CS might get the best of all worlds. Because he can just choose to build instead of playing the cards. I think he just does whatever Dave lets him. He's so like can't figure out the word. Like he doesn't care right now. The word's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, Dave has some major delays incoming. But Dave usually prioritizes the food, in my experience. We'll see what he does here. It's a juicy board. 4 reed, 4 wood, both 3 food actions, and Dave does take the sheep. Yeah. He's got an old miser. Bigfoot doesn't need both bottom feeding actions, but might still take them. But CS can still just take Day Labor and be okay. And actually, Day Labor is more than okay. It comes with 3 stone now. And it's a late stone game. CS is in quite a position here. I'm not actually sure why he's not building a second room. I think this is just wrong to not build a second room. Because if he wants to like save the action for a stable, to combo a room with a stable, that's the same as just building a stable on its own later. So not building a second room kind of confuses me, given that he doesn't need any wood for his minor improvements. Or yeah, I'm not quite sure either. That's more or less a mystery to me. So Bigfoot does take one of the bottom feeding actions. Turambar does grow with the greenhouse, as predicted, and we'll see what Dave does here. 4 wood still available. It's probably good enough. Can try to build 4 stables on his room build, and then still have some wood for fencing later. Right. Wanting to build all stables. Yeah, Dave's in a reasonable position, but he's behind, and we'll see if Turambar and Bigfoot can use their action advantage. If I were to assess this game right now, I think CS is in the clear lead with an early game quarry. Feeding is sorted out. He's in line for Casino Manager. And knowing people's hands, I also think CS is winning this game currently. But I think everyone has a chance. It'll depend on how wood shakes out the rest of the game, I think. CS takes the 3 stone with Day Labor. First move, he's going to need it anyway, as he's growing first. Bigfoot snaps up the 5 reed. No, because either way, you're going to want to build a stable with that room. So why not just, like, you're going to spend the build room stables action to build a stable later if you need to do the blocking. So so the time you build the second room doesn't matter between the first and second build actions, right? But it does matter to perhaps grow earlier. So I think it is just a straight mistake. It probably won't matter, but it is just straight inferior. So Dave gets Reedstone food as Turambar elects to take Clay. Clay being important for the Path to Stone, getting the Scholar down for Turambar. Right. CS also dropping Tuileries Garden. This looks very good for CS still. He'll be able to get the well easily. Maybe Dave will fight for it, but Dave has got other things to be worried about, in my opinion. This round, I would expect Bigfoot to take start player at some point and Turambar to Wood Police. Yeah. Bigfoot takes the 3-wood, actually. I would probably get greedy with this move if I was in Bigfoot's position. I guess this sets up Steel Plow on start player. I would have start playered Dolly's Mother and see what happens if I was in Bigfoot's position, because you can take the sheep plus a food and have it breed. Of Menagerie, and then Dolly's Mother would let it breed, so that would be the plan to maybe get 6-wood. Anyway, that's not happening, so we should definitely turn our attention to something else. Turambar took the other 3-wood spot, and Dave does build the room in 4 stables. Yeah, we have a joke about Dave's gameplay is that often he doesn't care as much as we would about fencing, and so late in the game, if he has like big house strategies, he just builds 4 stables, and we call that the surrender stables because he's surrendering on getting fence points. But no, this looks like a very legitimate 4 stables move for sure. Bigfoot, yeah, exactly. Bigfoot, I would still expect the start player Steel Plow. I'm not exactly sure about the sequence here, and wow, it takes a single plow action. It's not what I would have expected. Because you're letting CS or Turambar get the 4 wood here. Turambar builds the stone oven on Reno. It's a bit surprising to me. Oh, no. Well, not in stage 2, but stage 3, it's definitely possible. That's a good call, Derek. It could definitely be for a grain in the ground. But you also have this crop rotation field, which I'm generally a fan of, so I think instead of spending a plow action when you have a steel plow in hand, I might go for the crop rotation field. It's not the most common, but I don't think it's that rare either. So one thing about Baker that a lot of beginning and intermediate players don't quite understand is that with good sequencing, you can avoid needing the extra bake actions. For example, take Turambar's game so far. He's baked all 3 of his grain acquired on Storehouse Keeper for 14 food just by buying the ovens. And that's a point of efficiency that I think a lot of players miss when going for grain-focused games, is that you want to limit the times you're taking the so bake action space. Baker is another great way to limit the times you don't take the so bake action space. And sometimes, in my experience, when you're baking with a cooking hearth anyway, that's because you have a ton of grain. So I think Baker with a hearth is totally reasonable if you're in one of those games with a ton of grain. That said, Bigfoot's not in one of those situations, right? Bigfoot doesn't have a ton of grain in his game. I'm not quite sure I understand it. CS opens the round taking plow over 4 wood. I find that surprising. Yeah, perhaps he notices it starting to get under contention, but again, it's not quite what I would do. Bigfoot does take the 2 sheep and gets the menagerie food. Turumbar taking reedstone food grain, and 4 wood slips all the way to Dave. I didn't expect that. CS going to day laborer and is going to contest the well. Dave can hit the well, but I think, well, Dave is growing, and it has the stone earmarked for a renovation anyway. Yeah, CS almost certainly gets the well here, and can build a room next round. Possibly. Turnbar is also angling for the well, and this actually forces CS to decide between a room and the well here. And this is something that wouldn't happen if he had just built a room earlier. So there is actually going to be a consequence for CS here. He's going to lose out on the first person to 4 people because Bigfoot could build, or he'll lose out on the well. It's on the growth. Dave hadn't grown yet, so there's the cord sheaf, keeps Eremite active for hopefully one more activation. I mean, that's definitely a good move. That's probably what the 3 stone is for. It's very useful to threaten well, but CS didn't budge, and CS is going to get rewarded for that read. CS does know about the Scholar in the game. That was in his opening pack. I would have called Dave to have the Scholar, and either way, I would expect one of Turumbar and Dave, if I'm CS. I would expect one of them to reno stone and one of them to play the well before. And I guess I have to assume that CS is calling the Scholar for Turumbar instead of Dave. Because if that's the case, then CS still has time to grab the well and can build here and grow and get the well. But if Dave has the Scholar, then Turumbar gets the well here. If Turumbar renos, yeah, all of his miners are a 3-oc prereqs. So he's just gonna reno nothing. That is true, but I think Crix probably has the better point that Eremite was that pack, same as Scholar. So CS knows that Casino Manager was taken by Bigfoot, Eremite was taken by Dave, so Turumbar must have Scholar. So he knows that Turumbar, having only played 1 Oc right now, and is either renoing or playing that Oc right now, yeah, the stone is not used for well. So this is a very good play by CS. Good memory or instincts or gamble. Something worked out for him here. I think this is a good job from Turumbar forcing the Educator to maybe play a little earlier than desired. Bigfoot plays the Glutton, which is a little awkward because it tells people that you're intending to put some food pressure on the game. Yep, and here comes Dolly's mother. Start player by Bigfoot. I assume he's setting up for a big wood action or 2-bore. I think he's getting ready for one of those possibilities. Right. CS is 1 food short of feeding when he grows. So I would actually expect a day labor action or grow wild greens and hope for plow and backup plan day labor. Yeah, actually, I'm going to call a grow before he needs to here in order to play wild greens. Yeah. Of course, he could just play a driftwood or, you know, a very good miner. He does go for plow first. I can't say I would have done this order myself, but it is actually cool to make sure. Yeah, he eats a raw crop in this line. Does he have a grow action he can get a food with? No. No, I think he's just going to play Driftwood and eat a raw crop. Anyway, yeah, the prediction. First in Stone is won by Dave because Turambar opted for Reedstone Food Grain. And Dave is going to play this second pick Journeyman right now. CS does play the Driftwood. The wood timing at this point is still very strong. He can get a joinery soon. He has most of the wood he needs for this game. He can keep getting a bit more wood and maybe build another room when he builds more stables. So. Right. I think I would have to say that Bigfoot and Turambar, even though they grew first and second, I would put them behind Dave and CS right now. I do think CS is the leader and by a decent bit because of these very strong minor improvements that he's already taking big advantage of. And he basically does have these casino manager points locked up, so even his meme value 3 points are going to be pretty realistic here. Bigfoot finishes off the food connoisseur. No, gets close to finishing it off, taking the 3 food in a clay. Oh, he does finish it off here. I thought I saw only the clay before his action. Turambar getting delayed on that Reno kind of sucks, but actually, Turambar is going to build a room here. Turambar decided to build a room first. He can save a read now or later. So I would save a read right now, and then try to angle for a major on the Reno, but this is fine. Scholar is going to play Resource Gatherer at the start of round 10 and get 2 wood on all future rounds, I would presume, for Turambar. Oh, you're totally correct. You're totally correct. Chat noting, Tepembo specifically noting that the game is clay starved, and that is a good observation. Dave built a clay room, Turambar has now built a clay room. A hearth was built, both ovens were built. This game is short on clay. If I'm CS, there's a dichotomy here, because you could definitely do an amazing job farming and try to get a ton of points that way, and try to win while being in wood. But on the other hand, you've also played Old Miser to reduce your ceiling. So can you afford to not hit your stone house ceiling? And with Quarry, I think that answer is no. So CS is going to have to put his farming on hold if he ever gets a 4 clay action offered to him. Yeah. Bigfoot started with the Dolly's mother earlier this round, yep, and is going to have 4 wood available. Dave is getting cows from Journeyman starting this round. He's 2 wood short of max fencing. Oh, I mean, a little bit of that yellow stable still peeping out, but I'm for visibility. I'm on team visibility of what's happening. I do not approve of smacking the animals right above a stable. Bigfoot Yeah, that's true. It's better than leaving them in their default position, which some players on the site do, unfortunately. I won't name names right now. Yeah, Bigfoot does get the two boar. I think four wood might have been the better play for Bigfoot, but those two boar weren't coming back around either. And maybe Bigfoot really wants to play as Ham Glazer. And if Bigfoot wants to play Ham Glazer, I'm not going to stop him. I think he has time for the four wood. Yeah, because, well, yeah, Scholar happens next round, as you noted. It's a Reno first action. No. It's a pure waiting move, if you asked me. Uh, Two sheep get taken by Dayfear, which is good for the Zoo Director. Given that he does have Zoo Director, I think it makes good sense. CS probably wasn't expecting it, though. Sid points out that he could be afraid of Bigfoot renovating, and given that Bigfoot probably doesn't have enough wood to justify another room, that's probably sensible enough. CS opting for start player wild greens over 4 wood. I mean, that's very surprising to me. Everyone could use it. Dave could use it for finishing off the fences and denying 2 wood to someone else. CS could use it to build a room with his next stable. Bigfoot and Turnbar definitely need the wood for fences. Yeah, I don't get it. CS's feeding is trash, you say, Tefimbo? Well, there's 2 rounds left, and Old Miser means that this family only costs 4 food in the harvest if you grow next round. Turnbar's growing this round. So. Right, as Rainier and Wallfly are suggesting, take wood, play quarry, or play joinery, take quarry. This is I think there's so many ways for CS to pull off the small feeding game that he's very much on track for, in my estimation. Uh, it gives him plow plus food plus sow if nobody takes plow, and it also gives him access to what's likely going to be a 2 cow move first move next round. Turumbar takes the plow. I think that's quite reasonable. Turumbar does seem to be ignoring swing plow because of it. And I think that's actually a good call because Casino Manager is the thing that's already for sure happening, and Turumbar is already short of wood. So I think Turumbar has to abandon swing plow or consider giving up fences this game. The latter seems worse to me. Yeah, and I mean, it just raises the question, in my opinion, how did 4 wood make it to be the 5th action of this round? Oh, you know what else CS could take first action next round is 4 clay. I would probably gamble if I'm in CS's position that I can get 4 clay next round, second move. The board is going to be relatively juicy. Neither of the big plows have been played yet, which is a sign that the plow space is going to be ultra contested, so that's one move that isn't 4 clay. 2 players are already in stone, so that's less possibility that clay gets taken. Right, it's round 11. You can start player for round 12 stuff. Right. That's what I'm thinking his reasoning is. Right. I don't actually remember the detailed wording on Resource Gatherer, so he might be able to get the wood immediately and he might not, depending on what the card says. All right, so that means that Turnbar will be able to get the 2 wood immediately. Yeah, he sowed 1 grain and baked 1 other. Turumbar's food is very concentrated on grain, so to get some grain into the ground and still bake 1 is a good enough move, in my opinion. It's not great. Dave takes the single cow. Uh, did he just eat it? I think he just ate it. There's some... Yeah, the clamps are in here. CS is gonna have to take 4 clay first action, I would presume. CS builds and grows because Turumbar actually baked instead of growing. But CS not building a stable there, I think, is also not what I would do. It's still only 5 food that he needs for the harvest, and quarry, joinery gives you 4 of that back. And then plows first action here. I think this game, I'm going to rate it comfortably as a win for CS here. Everyone else is too far behind. Dave has a chance if he can get some big fields and crops, but Dave doesn't have a ton of ceiling outside of Zoo Director remaining in hand. Like, he has good stuff in hand, but like the Tanner, I don't really think is much point ceiling. Clogs is okay. He does have the wood for the clogs, but yeah, I think that CS is really in position to take this one. Now I think it's fine for him to take 2 clay grabs. I would definitely take 4. Taking 4 means that 3 more next round on the 1 clay space would let him also buy a fireplace. That could be possible. Right. Yeah, I mean, the path that CS is taking is very efficient in that it's not what the other players are doing. Oh, that's also true. And that could be a reason for not prioritizing wood as heavily. Bigfoot Renos here with the crop rotation field, preparing a sow bake action, which Dave is also eligible for, but he'd have to bake a single grain, and that's very unlikely. He just needs to start hard plowing, yeah. Turumbar taking start player is probably not what Dave wanted to see. Dave could have been setting up a start player liquid manure. I would not be surprised if he first action plows. He's going to start buying boar with his journeyman, and he's going to plow a lot. CS took the reed, and I mean, Basket Maker's upholstery or Basket Maker's workshop. I guess upholstery is the better choice. Yeah. It's like Dave is intentionally hiding the stables. I agree, Wallfly. Not the most spirited thing to do in a casino manager game. Like, do you want to win fair and square, or are you trying to win at any cost? Yeah. 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 I assume all the other players are noticing. If they're in contention for casino manager, I think they'll know. I don't think Bigfoot or Turumbar is that close to casino manager here. They're both too far down on wood. In terms of casino manager, Dave might start player first action next round to make sure he gets at least a family growth without room action. Bigfoot has now used Frame Builder. Frame Builder coming in here to build a room with 1 wood, 3 clay, 2 reed, and then 4 stables for Bigfoot. Bigfoot prioritizing animal capacity over the possibility that he might not fence. And Turambar also spending wood, growing with the swing plow here. Turambar, yeah, Resource Gatherer is giving him more wood, and I think Turambar is just giving up on Casino Manager. He's going to fence 12 tight, still use Swing Plow twice to cover up all of his remaining spaces. It's a coherent enough strategy. I think optimally, I actually can do this. I would fence 12 here, because the fences are coming in late, and it's safer to Swing Plow around the outside. That's my point of view here. The stone room's not happening regardless. So, you know, if you want to say that swing plowing, you know, this is good, or, you know, this is good, and fence the other 4 spaces, like, there's a lot of things that are basically the same. But with the amount of stone injected into the game, I would not count out the possibility of building a 5th room. So I do think that leaving the space next to the house is best. Right. CS goes on day labor, now ready to major minor joinery or basket maker's workshop. Probably joinery and spend the read on upholstery. CS's food is not critically bad. He's got enough food to feed right now, and he's going to have a guild. Oh, wow. Inventory manager is going to be a clay manager, I would have to assume. True. Let's see. Heatwave is actually going to be great for CS. Corn Sheaf also seems, you know, Grain in a Clay is not the worst action when you have 5 actions. Alright, so growth flips here. Turambar is going to grow. Dave is going to plow or start player, if I read this correctly. Dave did buy a pig with Journeyman, though could just take 2 more pigs. CS is going to take plow or cows. Yeah, cows or plow. CS is really, I think, hoping for 3 clay, 2 clay this round. That's also a viable sequence. I mean, when you have action advantage like this, it's just like so like guaranteed that you're gonna get some decently usable sequence of moves. I mean, if it's not grow, it has to be plow. Yes, he can just take the food wherever he goes. And he does elect to use swing plow. I don't approve of this center field. I think this center field is wrong, as we've covered. But it's so marginal. Way more marginal than even CS's build sequencing. Yeah, he does get Diamond Mine down so that he'll have a couple stone. Dafe does take the growth, which is a huge gift for him. Dafe is going to be very short on fields this game, so that is going to be Dafe's biggest concern, along with having no clear point ceiling, Zoo Director being hidden. CS does grab the 2 cows, Bigfoot grabs the 4 wood, and Turambar probably takes 3 wood here, though could surprise me for sure with something else. Yeah. I believe Turambar didn't get gatherers. And CS might not have fed. Yeah. Check. So I think that's... I mean, I probably am just wrong. I will definitely trust the players. Lots of stuff happening. There we go. There is the announcement. So. Yeah, I mean the zoo is really fleshed out now. Is it Blackjack Davy approved here? Yeah. I mean you can't really hide the stables too much if you're going to declare 3 animals in both of your small pastures. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Let's see. Turn bar only has 2 cards left to toss for Village School. I'd be tempted to turn both those cards into a wood each if I'm turn bar on 2 fence actions. I think it is. I think it is. Right. Tuileries and Swing Plow compete for the same single space. CS does get a second breeding pair here. CS's game is still on track as long as he can get clay. 3 clay, 2 clay, both available. Unlikely to be taken in my estimation. Turnbar could go for the clay, but, Turnbar is very busy with other things. I still think this looks good for CS. Dave gets to start with the clogs on his last action here and get to max out Casino Manager by growing next round. Yep, goodbye Eremite. Only worked for 11 food and 4 wood. Yeah. So CS taking the 2 wood ahead of 3 clay, 2 clay. Yep, and I mean, he wants to build stables in the last 2 rounds. He is growing. Yep, so that's a side bonus for building that room, is that you get to spend 3 more wood on a steel plow. Being a little facetious there. Yep. And I guess I'm looking at this again. Now that Dave has locked up Maximum Casino Manager, assuming he does take Family Grow, CS not building a stable on that 5th room, I really don't think that was right. I mean, yeah, maybe I missed that he had no food, but I would have even eaten a raw crop to do it. I'm pretty sure he had the wood. CS is fencing 2 here. The fence actions are going to be contested in the rest of the game, and he can get more wood from Inventory Manager. I think this is a wise fence action for CS, and still build a stable here or here to fence around it later. Right. Turnbar is going to have 9 wood at the start of this round. So he could just be accepting that he'll fence 10 across 4 spaces. Something like that. And then, right, he can discard the pelts, I think is a better discard than Veggie Lover. I think Veggie Lover he might actually want for feeding help or point at the end of the game. CS has a couple good options here. Plow and Plowsow are both quite nice. Plowsow comes with an extra food from wild greens, but less crops. You lose out on 1 grain or 1 vegetable in net by Plowsowing instead of plowing. Yeah, and if that's the case, then you're actually going to fence 10 with 3 spaces three 1x1 pastures because you can still steel plow, or sorry, swing plow and build the room. Oh, sorry. So you could end up with, exactly, so you end up with this kind of arrangement. And we see the 3 stone on the board, so I think that's very possible here. I think Bigfoot does plow. The wood actions are not amazing enough, and you want to make sure that you use your steel plow here, especially with plow so taken. Yeah. There's going to be heavy competition at the start of next round for this last plow 1 field action, because CS is going to benefit nicely from it, and Turambar is going to benefit nicely from it, and Dave doesn't care, because Dave is not getting both plow actions next round. He's just going to abandon these 4 empty spaces. You know, just trying to raise animals is hard enough. I mean, if you're trying to raise this Martian zoo, you know, that's expensive. I don't see it for Dave. I think CS's farm is impressive enough, assuming he can get to stone. You know, if he can get to stone, that'll negate the -5, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand this one. Maybe. I mean, Plauso is still going to be like a 3-point move if he can liquid manure it. And it means he gets the plow if he wants it, but he has a lot of things he needs to do at the start of next round now. Like, he wants to reno twice. I do think that not taking the clay last round is going to cause some problems. CS plays a corn sheaf. Right. I think that's probably correct. It has to be major minor. Yeah, probably upholsters one, but it doesn't actually matter too much. You can upholster later. So blocking major minor seems okay. Yes, and I think he can. 4 clay, reno, heat wave, day labor, and then take 2 stone at least next round on one of 3 possible action spaces for it. Maybe just 2 possible action spaces, quarry and the thing that's currently at 1 stone. Turambar took wood before fencing and that gamble pays off. Yeah. Oh, and Turambar is no longer building that 5th room, as Marushka stated, as he has built the Basket Maker's Workshop. Yeah, it kind of depends on what CS needs to do. One of CS and Bigfoot needs to reno this round so that they can both get to stone. Yeah, and CS has more actions. Well, specifically, he's going later this round. He has the last action of the round. So if Reno's not taken by then, it'll need to be done then. Dave's remaining game plan, I mean, it's not especially clear. He takes a cow here because he's hungry. He wants to play Cooking Corner for 2 points. He wants to play Zoo Director for 5-ish points. It's not really clear to me necessarily. CS does get 4 clay. He's ready to renovate. I expect it to be Heatwave for a fireplace and a wood, and that wood lets him stable with the last move of the round. So I would expect that to be the sequence here. It locks up Casino. It really has. CS is going to pull everything off here, walking the tightrope successfully, I think. Bigfoot sows three crops, 2 grain, 1 veg. The veg on the crop rotation field, which is still in time to rotate at the end of the game. So that's cool. Yeah. Right. It's definitely a cool thing to see. Dave could also take a stone pile to try to pressure stone a little more and angle for pottery because that last clay stack isn't doing much. Yeah, Dave is playing Zoo Director here. This is probably a pretty good move. Relieving your own occupation pressure for the late game. Bigfoot gets the ham glazer down. He's baking some ham. Put some barbecue sauce on it. Yes, he's gonna bake a pig. He's gonna play baker to bake an extra. He's gonna bake three pigs total. 3 pigs total, I think. So, and then gonna bake the remaining grain that comes off of his fields. So I think Bigfoot is gonna manage to get a few points on Glutton here, which is pretty cool with Educator. And he's spending, yeah, and he's spending Reed to play the occupations for no food. CS does play Reno Heatwave. Claims 2 wood. I think I missed where the second one comes from, but... Oh, well, Heatwave's actually 2 improvements. That's how it happens. Because it's the Heatwave and then the Fireplace. Correct, 1 to eat. Or save for points. Probably to eat, but CS knows the math better from his seat than we can do while trying to capture what everyone's doing. Yeah. So CS has done some very strong calculations here. He's setting himself up right in time for a bunch of stuff. CS upholstering is a little bold. Brushwood Collector, yeah. Brushwood Collector is there to save him. So that is also a use for that last wood. There's also no pressure on the room's action. The room stables action. Bigfoot has capped out on stables, and he has no legal space to build a room. Turambar's 4 resources away from building a stone room. Could technically still do it. Turambar does have the card in hand to discard for a Reed, let's say, if he gets a 4-stone grab. So Turambar could still put pressure on build room, but doesn't have any wood to build stables. And Dave is way too far away from building a stone room and has also built all of his stables. Yeah, that looks like what he's doing from the play-by-play, and indeed that is the case. I would have gone for 3 stone, I think, to lock in the slightly more difficult grab. Kimball with a very, very good point. Resource gathering 2 wood from Turambar could definitely make the stable move contested. And this lets CS plow. So another calculation that is good by CS that we were not able to see. Turambar declaring 3 Reed seems like a valid place to put it, with nobody really needing the Reed spot. Yeah. Yeah, Turambar's having a good game, but it doesn't have Casino Manager. He might not grow to 5 if Bigfoot elects to grow first action. Yep. The grain that he sowed appears here, even though it technically should be there. Just an artifact of how the game automatically sows things. And CS now has 2 extra grain to eat raw. He already has his 5 for feeding with Old Miser, so all the wood he can gather is just going to be joinery bonus from here on out. He needs 2 stone actions and a reed/wood action, and then renovates. But he doesn't care which stone action he gets, as long as he gets one of the board stone actions and the quarry. Correct. No hogs. So, alternatively, so that we just detailed is 4 moves for 5 points. 6 points, let's say, with joinery point on the 4 wood. But I think you bring up a good thing to think about, that how much worse is an alternative plan for CS here. And now that the 4 wood is taken by Bigfoot, the Reno gets even worse. It's 4 moves for 5 points. So taking a pig, 2 wood actions is already 4 points, and then, you know, if you can find a 1-point move somewhere else, then you're set. I'm not sure if CS has that 1-point move. Tapestry Weaver would be a 1-point move, potentially. That is true, and Tepembo has brought that up in chat also. So that is, yeah, that is viable. I think Kimball is noticing the same. You do, but the auto-sow placed it weird. Oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. Okay. Right, so it won't matter particularly much. Bigfoot asking a question here. Yeah, he can bake his ham immediately. Turambar did get the grow. And now can take the 4 stone action, because how else is Turambar making points in this game besides his read action? Oh, you know, that's a good point. They're allowed to know it if they can count the village school throwaways correctly, because they should be able to see 3 occupations thrown away on village school. They see 5 miners played, they see 2 in the village school pile, and if they can remember that Bigfoot hasn't passed a miner, then they will know. So Turambar takes the safe 3 read and a food action. Dave did play the cooking corner last move. Is still running out of decent points. Plays a lamp oil here. Yeah, this is 4 stone for CS. Because that... Well, actually, yeah, he took wood, so... Or maybe he's just giving up on the Reno. He takes a boar. He's giving up on the Reno, assuming that Dave is completely out of good moves, and I think that's probably a good call. If Dave is already playing single point moves, I think it's very reasonable for him to take like a 4 stone or the reed stone to interrupt whatever CS might have been planning to do last. Kimball referring to if they want to know how many cards are left in Turambar's hand, they can ask reasonably. I do agree with that. So in terms of winning here, I do think CS has played the smoothest game. 3 upholstery points, a bonus joinery point or 2. Uh, Imagine CS has a wood house and no old miser issues. I think that's still probably better than Turambar, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I do think it's CS first, Turambar second, but we have not looked at the scorecards. That Zoo Director could be getting undervalued by me. Maybe I don't see Veggie Lover being as good as it actually is. There's a few ways I could have misinterpreted this one. Turambar definitely has some good bonuses here. Yeah, I think Bigfoot hasn't quite figured out enough points. He has good crops, but didn't get to grow to 5. His fences are bad. Ah, Glutton. Yeah, good point. So Glutton, he's going to be able to bake 3 grain for 9 food, and he already has 9 extra. So just baking the grain, baking 3 grain that come off the fields, and the extra 9 food that he has right now should maximize Glutton. Yeah. Because it does cost him a grain point. Yeah. CS takes 4th and 5th woods, but now I'm not exactly sure what the last move is, and this is why I might have gone for the Reno line. Turambar did end up taking Reedstone food. It does come with a point of grain, actually, if Turambar Veggie loves 3 sets of grain plus veg. CS had the Tapestry Weaver. Ah, yes, we had mentioned this. Dafe, with 1 field, pulls out a 51-point game. That's pretty cool to see. CS at 56 plus. The plus is actually partially a minus. Turambar calling Gratz CS in chat. Turambar showing 50, so Turambar is actually beaten by Dafe here. Because Turambar needed to eat one of the pairs of grain veg, so that lowers his point ceiling by 2. And yeah, I think Bigfoot is probably under 50. CS is going to be 57, perhaps. Ooh, 61. I forgot about the breeding. What a game. So, with Quarry, it ends up in maybe the least likely scenario, ending up in a clay house. So CS, winning the semifinal, winning the final, avenging his finals loss last year in a season that he basically ran away with. Yeah, and Bigfoot ending with 48 actually is, quite good. So it's really just CS 10 points above everyone else. Fantastic. Fantastic. Congratulations to CS.